Oh, how cute! Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of That's Wild. Today I thought I'd come back to the original location, although it is in the underground car park because it is so hot outside. It's literally 34 degrees outside, so in the car it's already hot. And I can't be sitting in the car when it's that hot, so I'm in the underground car park, but it's still nice, but that is why the lighting is a bit weird because it goes on and off as cars drive past. But nevertheless, I'm happy to be back where I usually film. But today I thought I'd talk about something that had come to my mind after reading a book, which first of all needs a round of applause. And you know what? I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't read the book, I listened to the audiobook. But to me that's the same thing because I live in my car, I drive everywhere, I'm in my car for hours a week. So I listen to it instead because I don't have time to read. So let's just get into it because I never know how to start things that I plan to talk about. So let me just yap and get into it. So anyway, I read oh my god, hello? Where's my words? I read a book, or I listened to a book. I listened to the book called Loud. Well, it's called Loud, but the undertitle is Accept Nothing Less Than What You Did. No, accept nothing less than the life that you deserve. And it's written by Drew Afualo, I think it's about, or Tegan, and she is a TikToker originally, but she's kind of known for not liking men, which we can all agree on. But she wrote this book about how to find acceptance within yourself and not finding acceptance through men. And I've always had this kind of thought anyway, but I love the way that she talks about misogyny and how the patriarchy kind of ruins the way that women think or don't think for themselves. And I read this book mainly because I resonated with one of her chapters. She has a chapter, what is it called? Let me find it. Chapter 6, and it's called I'd Rather Die Alone. And see, I had this thought for a long time. And I had this thought because I feel like when I was growing up as a child, because I had a disability, I was always stereotyped as being less than. I was made to feel I was made to be under the impression that whoever found me and wanted to love me, I should be grateful for them because they saw beyond my disability and saw beyond the struggles. So whoever decided that they were going to love me, I should just be grateful that there's someone out there that could love me with all my differences. And that was the impression that I grew up with because of the way that society puts this downer and this societal image and stereotype that people with disabilities are considered less than any other woman, if you follow me. And so for a long time when I was young, I had that feeling that I should just be grateful for whoever came into my life. When I was really young, I watched all these Disney films and TV shows, and all of the shows that you watch when you're young, they show a woman that's usually really pretty, really gorgeous, and she finds someone that she loves, or she finds a partner, and they fall in love. They have this wonderful life together. They have marriage and children and whatever else. So as a young child, I feel like that's what we're taught to want to aspire to. We're taught to want to live that life of like finding someone, falling in love, getting married, having children, and that's the life we're taught to want to have. So that's the life that I always wanted when I was younger. And then I also just realised that my mirror's half like a. Anyway, I got distracted. My mirror's half a, what's it called? Like a sunscreen film on them. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we're taught to want these lifestyles, and then when you grow up as a young woman, you start to experience those milestones. Like you start to maybe have a relationship, or go on dates, or start meeting people that you might want to be with at some point. You start to go through that. But when I got to that point as a teenager, I quickly realised that there is a difference between a woman and a disabled woman and how they're treated by society. And by that I mean most people that I met that I had intentions of like having a romantic relationship with, I was often met by rejection because of my disability. And because people saw my disability and me being like less than, or like I wasn't good enough to be with them because I was disabled, or I wasn't what they wanted in a woman. And they wouldn't say that it was my disability, but I kind of knew that it was my disability because in my mind I'm thinking, well, what else could it be other than that? Because that's the only major difference between me and my peers, is that I was disabled and they weren't. And and so from a young age, do you know what? Also, I will say from a young age, I kind of had this like delusional thought, which isn't delusional because it's kind of true. But when you when you grow up being disabled, you get stared at quite a lot by everyone. Wherever you go, you get stared at quite a lot. And my dad was particularly aware and like self-conscious about people staring at me. And from a young age, if I asked why are they looking at me, my dad will always say, "Oh, it's just because you're so beautiful. They've never seen anyone so beautiful in their life." So I had that drilled into me from a young age. So I grew up just thinking that I was the hottest shit there is, because like I've been told since I was 4 that yeah, you're a stunning little girl. You're really beautiful. So I grew up with that in my head. That oh, these people are just looking at me because I'm so stunning. And yet at some point I did realise that it was probably because I am disabled and they haven't seen someone like me. But I still had that like inner thought, oh, they just think I'm gorgeous. Which I actually loved that my dad did that, because it gave me this like absolute delusional sense of like self-love within myself. Like I mean, there were a few years where I really disliked the way that I looked, but it wasn't because I didn't like my looks, it was because I didn't like my disability and how it affected me. I still thought that I was a really pretty girl. I just didn't like the way that my disability had restrictions on my life and stuff. So I always grew up just thinking that I was a really pretty girl, which is so like utterly egotistical, and like it honestly is so funny to me that it's just the way that I was brought up. I just I just had that thought. But what was I saying? Oh, so when it came into like finding relationships, and whenever I met rejection, I always thought, oh, it must be my disability, because that's the only factor that could be a restriction for them. I always put it back on them. Like they can't handle being with someone that is disabled, and that's fine, but that's not like my doing. It's not my fault that they can handle that. And that's the way that I kind of got through most things. But I also got really comfortable with the idea of being alone. I got very comfortable with it, and I've already said, like, I'm quite an introverted person. I'm very happy being in my own company regarding, like, life in general. I'm very happy being on my own and doing things on my own. And don't get me wrong, I do like having people around me. I love being in social situations with friends and family and people that I love closely. But I'm also very happy to be on my own and, like, just do things on my own. I'm very happy, and I've taught myself that I can do most things by myself and still be happy with the way that I live and still be content. And yeah, so from a young age, well, not a young age, from my, like, teenager age, I really struggled with dating and finding, like, that relationship feeling of, like, dating people and feeling that, like, they saw me beyond my disability and they could connect with me to a different level. So I kind of just convinced myself that I was just happy to be alone. And not even that, I feel like I'm more happy being alone than being with someone that doesn't accept who I am or doesn't treat me the way that I deserve to be treated. And that was the one thing that kind of kept me going, with that I just thought I'd rather be alone than be with someone that does not get me or does not treat me how I deserve to be treated. And especially after seeing, like, friends and family that have gone through different relationships where they might not be, they might not have been treated well, or things didn't quite work out, or they didn't see, like, the red flags. I was very aware of things that I did not like in a relationship, and especially in a man. And definitely once I came out and once I said that I was bisexual, things probably changed, because I think when it's a lot easier to see the red flags in a man than it is a woman, but they're still there. But that being said, I still date with the intention that I'd rather be alone than be with someone that is gonna treat me wrong or disrespect me. And basically, chapter 6 of her book is called "I'd Rather Die Alone," and she talked a lot about how she just came to this acceptance that she can live a very happy life, having her family in it and her friends in it, and not having that romantic connection. She can still be very happy in the life that she lives, and you don't need that romantic connection to be able to be happy, especially if that romantic connection isn't serving you at all. She'd rather be alone than be with someone. Well, she actually said she'd rather be alone than be with a mediocre man, which I love. But I just related to that so much because that's exactly how I felt. Like, I convinced myself, and I still believe it, that I'd rather be alone than be with someone that does not serve me. And it's so funny because actually, when I first started this podcast, I was in a relationship. And that relationship was, like, my first relationship where I did let my guard down a little bit, and I kind of thought, fuck it, let's just do it. And I'm not going to say it bit me in the ass, but it kind of bit me in the ass. Because I knew going into it that there'd be a few issues with how, like, not how I was treated, but how I was treated, I guess. And I knew that there would be a few, like, things that I probably wouldn't normally put up with, that I did put up with. And then You know what? I'm not even going to talk about it for that long. But basically, I let my guard down. I let a person in that I thought would fulfill me for a certain period of time. And yeah, within like a few months, we came to the realization that we weren't suited for each other. But she said the same thing, that once she came to the realization that she was happy to be alone, is when she found her husband. And it is that feeling of like, basically you can be an independent person within a relationship, and you don't have to be dependent on each other to be able to be in that relationship. You can still be individuals and live life together without having to live the same life, if that makes sense. But I think that's what I kind of like in a relationship. In a relationship, I like being independent and still my own person, and they be their own person, and then we just do life together. I think that's how a relationship should be, because I think when you have codependent, word. I think when you are codependent is when things can become a little bit overwhelming and like a bit too much. This is really hard, and I feel like I'm not articulating myself how I want to be. But basically, I think I went on a bit of a tangent, but as I was saying, I feel like it's just really healthy to accept like life independently before you get into a relationship. And I really thought it was refreshing to hear her speak about how she's happy to she's very content in the life that she lives, to the point where she's very happy to die alone and to not be with anyone. And I feel like that's kind of how I felt, because I think when you're dating with a disability, it's very hard to feel accepted. And don't get me wrong, I've seen it happen. I've seen a lot of online relationships where disabled people have found someone that they love and that they marry and have children with. But I feel like when you're a teenager or in your 20s and you're growing up and you're wanting to find that romantic connection, it's very, very hard when you're met with rejection or lack of acceptance from other people. And I spoke about this before, about like dating culture and how now it's way easier to date on dating apps. But then, like, do you disclose that you have a disability on there, or do you wait until you meet them in person? And like, when is it the right time to drop that in the conversation? It's very hard to navigate it and how to figure it out. And I still haven't figured it out, but is it I basically just found it interesting how she was able to find such acceptance within herself that like she absolutely refuses to date anyone that isn't going to make her feel herself. And I think that's kind of how I felt. I just feel like I couldn't ever be with someone that is, as she would say, mediocre, and someone who just doesn't accept you for who you are, doesn't fulfill your needs within life, doesn't treat you how you deserve to be treated. It's like, why put yourself through that just to have a romantic connection when you can do that for yourself anyway? And I saw someone else say that, like, you want your partner to treat you how you treat yourself and more. You don't treat yourself with disrespect. You don't treat yourself like you're less than. You always do. You look after yourself, so you would expect that your partner would do that as well. I don't know, I just find it a very interesting topic, and I still kind of feel that way. I feel like I'm very happy in my life and the way that I live my life and the way that I am. There's definitely room for, like, more people in my life. I love my friends, I love my family, I love everyone that I have in my life, but I'm very content, and, like, I just can't, I don't know, I just convinced myself from, like, such a young age that there might not be someone out there for me, and that's okay. And if there is, that's great, but I'm more than happy to do life alone, and I have great people around me in my life that I think I can do that. I don't need someone that is going to make me feel worse about myself or disrupt disrupt the way that I live my life. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still want that. I still want that for myself. I still want to be able to find a romantic connection and to have that experience. But I'm also very content with just doing life with myself. Anyway, I feel like I can't talk anymore because my eyes are so tired. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I had a very strong coffee and it's making my eyes feel weird, which is a weird thing with my disability. It's like, if I have coffee at a wrong time of day, it affects my body weirdly. But anyway, I feel like I can't talk anymore, so I'm gonna go. But I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment on what you would like me to talk about next. And I'll see you for another episode next week.